What is going on, everybody? Your boy, HR Falcons 20. Jesus, I look like the devil right now. My eyes are like black. I'm gonna like open up my internet window so y'all can see my. There we go. All right, HR Falcons 22 back here again, doing another dip chat, not a dip review. I'm not really sure what these are anymore. I just really like making videos, checking in on you guys, seeing how you're doing. So what did I want to talk about today? Oh my god. Well, first off, if y'all haven't seen it, it's like my most controversial dip video ever. The What Your Dip Choice Says About You video, which I made when I was like a sophomore at USC and I was young, dumb, and full of cum. But there was I got the notification at the gym yesterday and I was just sitting there like, is this dude fucking serious? Like, this dude commented like, maybe instead of doing going golfing, you should do your research on your dippers. And yeah, the only mistake you made was about grizzly wintergreen dippers, and they're all gonna come and fuck you up. It's like, what? Really, dude? Relax. It's called observational comedy, sir. Like, if here's the thing, if being a part of a certain demographic of dipping is your most defining characteristic in life, you need to reevaluate your life. You need to find a hobby. You need to like travel, go do something, because you're part of the same campy bullshit where people as humans, we want to belong to something. We want to belong to a group, and we want to have affirmation, and we want to feel like we're a part of something that's bigger than ourselves, right? So if your like biggest thing is like, oh yeah, I'm a grizzly wintergreen dipper, these guys are my brothers out here, it's like, dude, fucking, oh my god, like, yeah, you really need to find something else to do. Which, speaking of, I am dipping Copenhagen wintergreen right now because, contrary to what I say in that video, which I'm still sticking by, which if there were a bunch of grizzly wintergreen dippers who like really wanted to come and fuck me up, bro, which I remember when I responded with violence to every situation, and then I fucking went into the 8th grade. Let's take a dip because I'm stressed talking about it right now. Even if there were a bunch of grizzly wintergreen dippers who like wanted to fucking come and I don't know, come to my house and fuck me up, be like, all right, well, y'all probably didn't pass fucking elementary school, and I'll definitely smell all of your Adidas cologne before I even see you guys coming and hear your fucking mouth breathing like again, this is just me ripping on grizzly wintergreen dippers, but you get my fucking drift. Like, the whole thing, like, the fact that this dude thinks that I should have done more research, as if there was any research done in the first place, is fucking laughable. And this dude just looks like somebody who like screams at the waitress at Buffalo Wild Wings and then leaves like a 1.5% tip or something like that. He looks like the kind of guy who asks for a happy ending at Massage Envy, or some shit like that. Just looks like one of those fucking guys that just has barbecue sauce or like buffalo wing sauce like always. Yeah, it just looks like one of those guys, so don't fucking take that seriously at all. You want to come fuck me up, sir? Yeah, I'm not going to give out my address on YouTube, but yeah, PM me. I'd fucking love for you to come over here, because God knows all my roommates are gone for spring break, and yeah, I could really use some excitement in my life. Anyways, what did I want to talk to you guys about today? On to more serious things. So over the weekend, I was at this coffee place here in Columbia called Drip, which, if you're a coffee aficionado, Drip is the place to go in South Carolina. It is probably top 3 coffees I've ever had in my entire life. It's so fucking good. And yeah, okay, it takes like 10 minutes for them to make it, but it's so worth it. I swear to God, you can like taste the love and effort and like the pure craftsmanship that goes into this coffee. It's fucking phenomenal. But anyways, I was there getting my daily coffee fix because I go to Drip like every day. And this dude walked up to me and, oh yeah, I'm spitting into my fucking milk jug right now, like a true McPoyle. So this dude walks up to me, and number one, he looked like he was extremely hungover because his eyes were just absolutely bloodshot. This fucking tub of shit comes... Well, he's not a tub of shit. Sir, if you're watching these videos, you're not a tub of shit. You just looked like you had a rough night. And this guy comes up to me, and he had these little, like, white flecks on his lip, and I couldn't tell. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, is he just that dehydrated, or are his lips chapped? Like, I don't know. But anyways, this dude comes up to me, and we just start shooting the shit, and, he's talking to me about how he's looking for a job. And, you know, I kind of given the same spiel that I did in my last video that I did for y'all about like networking and stuff like that. I'd kind of give him the same deal. And, you know, we'd get to talking more, and I was like, so it's really like that hard to find a job right now? And this guy goes, oh yeah, man, like ever since Obama took office, everything's just been fucked up. And I was just sitting there like, really? Like, so Obama wasn't president and everything was good, and then all of a sudden Obama took office and now everything's just so fucked up, man. Like, but I wasn't about to sit there and like get in a debate with somebody at a coffee shop, so I held my tongue. But I really started thinking about that, and it's really a overarching theme that I see, especially with like millennial conservatives, not to generalize, but generally like when you see people on Fox News or, you know, CNN or something, and it's a bunch of like people at a Trump rally chanting, build that wall, build that wall. It's just a bunch of like college bros who like, you know, maybe they've looked into Trump and maybe they're actually voting for him because they truly think that he is the best choice as the next potential leader of the free world. But like for the most part, they're just people who like want to bro out and be like, yeah, fucking Trump, like fuck minorities and shit. And they're the kind of people who would be like, yeah, Obama really fucked up the economy, didn't he? Like, and I feel like that's just like Obama gets blamed for a lot of it. Bush gets blamed for a lot of it too. So this isn't like totally anti-conservative, because all the Democrats, all the liberals love to blame Bush for everything. And yeah, okay, the Iraq war was probably a step in the wrong direction for us. But I really wanted to go into the root causes of the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis in the United States, and really what are like 3 or 4 just main causes in layman's terms that you can sit and you can do further research on, so that you can actually be educated when you talk about that stuff. Because I know, like, before I looked into it, you know, you hear words or phrases like subprime mortgage crisis, you know, collateralized debt obligations, or, you know, something like that. And you kind of throw those words around without really knowing what they mean. So that's why your boy HR Falcons 22 is here to educate you. And, you know, maybe you can, if you and your friends are having a political discussion, you know, and there's some ladies in the room, you can whip out this knowledge and maybe you'll get laid. Who knows? So, we'll get into that. And then, I don't know, just, really another like quick hitter, like 4 item list. Just of things like, as I was thinking about this conversation that I was having with this guy at the coffee shop, I was just like, okay, well, like if I was looking for a job, or if I was a job seeker, or I was trying to get an internship, or, you know, if I could go back and be at that point in my life again, what are some skills, like knowing what I know now, what are some skills that I would actively try and cultivate a little bit more, that I, you know, feel would make me a more valuable addition to an organization. So, at least in my experience, like being in the consulting world, it really is filled with general skills, but there are a ton of technical skills and just little things that you can do that, you know, if you're a sophomore or junior in college, if you're looking for a job right now, these are all very marketable skills, things that will make you a valuable addition to whatever company you end up working for. And by contrast, or by the same token, you'll be able to climb the ranks a little bit further if you have these certain set of skills, just these things that I narrowed down like off the top of my head. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So, the causes of the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis, arguably, we're still experiencing some of the after effects of it, right? It really comes down to 3 things. The first being legislation, specifically the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. I always refer to it as GLIBA, but it was basically a piece of legislation that was signed into law by President Clinton, I think back in like 90 or 91 or something like that. And up until that point, lending institutions, investment banks, and commercial banks couldn't act as one or the other. So an investment bank had to be an investment bank. It couldn't participate in the insurance market. By the same logic, an insurance company couldn't also speculate on housing prices or, you know, something like that. So when that law was signed into effect, all of a sudden these institutions who were not able originally under the original, I think it was the Glass-Steagall Act or something, but they were unable to consolidate, and now all of a sudden they could go into these markets that they had not been able to enter before. So after it was signed into law by Clinton, you had a number of commercial banks, investment banks, really financial institutions who became transformed from initially just managing people's money, and all of a sudden they could start proprietary trading, which is they could act on certain insider knowledge, or they could trade in the markets actively themselves. So these people start to enter the market and they start kind of manipulating things, trying to make a profit, right? So after the passage of GLIBA, this law, this legislation, everything is cool, everything was great. It became really, really easy to buy a house. So this is substantiated primarily by the housing bubble, which really started in the mid 90s, but continued up until like 2006, 2007. And basically it was just low interest rates. So people were able to get credit easily. And then they were able to buy a house, which was great. You could buy a house. If I'm a responsible homeowner, I'm trying to start a family, I could go buy a house, no problem. And it was considered a safe investment at the time because housing prices were just constantly rising. You were always good to go in on a house. It was thought. So I go in and I buy a house and I make all my mortgage payments, and that's all good, great, and grand, right? Well, in the aftermath of, this is really the second cause, in the aftermath of 9/11 and the dot-com, like the bursting of the dot-com bubble, the Fed at the time, well, really Alan Greenspan, who was the chairman of the Fed at the time, he lowers interest rates at the Fed to 1%. So if I'm an investor and I'm looking at investing in a house or, a neighborhood or something like that, because I want to sell it back at a higher profit later, 1% really isn't that good of a return on investment. I'm going to back out of that and be like, no thanks, I'm going to look elsewhere. But if I'm a commercial bank or something like that, all of a sudden I can borrow a shit ton of money. I can borrow $990,000 and only pay $10,000 for it. I can borrow for only 1%. So banks started using this whole concept called leverage, which basically leverage is borrowing on, like, using other people's money to amplify the outcome of a financial deal. So, I don't know, as an example, let's think about, say you wanted to, I don't know, you had $5,000 in life savings or something like that. And you wanted to start a dip stand, and you were going to sell dip on the corner like a fucking lemonade stand or something like that, right? Well, you can go in and you can buy, say, I don't know, 1,000 cans at $5 a piece, and therefore spend all of your $5,000. You can sell those 5,000 or those 1,000 cans at, say, $6 a piece, right? So you spend $5,000 and you sell each of your 1,000 cans for $6 a can. So you make $6,000, but you also took out $5,000 to spend on this shit, so you make only a profit of $1,000, right? That's under like a normal deal, like how normal deals work out, right? Under a leverage deal, you could be like, all right, I have $5,000. I'm going to go to a bank, fucking borrow another $145,000. So I have $150,000 total. And if I buy cans at $5 a can, I can buy 30,000 cans of dip, right? So even if I sell those cans for $1 more, say I sell those 30,000 cans for $6 a can, then I just made $180,000. But I have to pay back the $145,000 loan that I took out, plus interest, 10%. So what, $159,500? That's what I have to pay back to the bank. That's what I owe them, right? But at the end of the day, I'm still stuck with what, $15,500 of profit. So under leverage, I'm able to make more money because I can borrow more money to invest in something. So this is essentially what banks started doing with houses, right? Under a normal scenario, what happens is I buy a house, I go to a mortgage broker. The mortgage broker goes to his lending institution and says, I've got this shithead who wants to buy a house. And they say, okay, great. Well, how risky is he? And the mortgage broker says, he's pretty good. He's got money in the bank, and it looks like he's going to be able to make all of his mortgage payments. So the lending institution says, great, here's some money, help him into a mortgage, help him buy a house, right? So that was the housing market before banks started getting involved, right? It was just the lending institution and the mortgage broker and you, right? So what happened after this whole legislation and grant the GLIBA, and then also when banks started getting into the game, is that investors wanted in on this action. And they were like, okay, well, banks can borrow at 1%. I want to be able to invest in a neighborhood and, have somebody's, essentially, my mortgage payment, instead of going, I pay a mortgage payment, and instead of going to the lending institution, it goes to the lending institution. The lending institution then sells my mortgage to a bank. And the bank is buying thousands and thousands of mortgages, right? And they're putting them into really 3 separate buckets. Safe, so-so, like triple B or junior rated investments, and then subprime. Subprime mortgages are basically mortgages that are paid and or owned by people who are considered high risk, people who may not be able to pay them back. So why were these people able to get mortgages? Well, arguably, it's because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the 2 federal housing institutions at the time, before they were taken over by the government, they had certain quotas that said, okay, you, mortgage lenders, you have to, extend mortgages, upwards of 25% of the mortgages you give out in total have to be to minorities or low income or, people like that who would generally, under a normal scenario, be considered high risk. So the mortgage institution is like, all right, well, we'll do it. And then we'll just sell those riskier investments to the bank, to the investment bank. So we'll pass the buck along, right? The bank then takes those mortgages and sells them to investors, and everybody gets fabulously rich, right? Well, what happens when I default on my mortgage, or, say I'm an irresponsible mortgage payer and I default? Well, that means I'm not able to pay my mortgage, right? So all of a sudden, the money that the bank was making off of me dries up. And the money that they were making off of the other person, my next door neighbor, also dries up. And all of a sudden, the bank is stuck with all these worthless houses, because as people default on their loans, houses become less valuable. You literally just see neighborhoods full of abandoned houses, which was also caused by people building a shit ton of houses in the first place. That's a whole nother issue. But essentially, what happened was the bank was stuck with all these mortgages, these worthless mortgages that were essentially ticking time bombs. And the bank started freaking out in 2007 really, and started trying to sell these shitty mortgages off to the next person because they just wanted to absolve themselves of any risk. And a lot of people at that point realized that the bank was trying to sell them, shit in a box, and were just like, no, I don't want to buy it. I don't want to buy it. I don't want to buy it. So the bank gets stuck with these worthless securities, these worthless collateralized debt obligations that they are unable to pay back. And on top of that, they bought insurance on some of these mortgages. Most of the time, it's like, I think the figure is like upwards of 60% of these securities of mortgages were insured by banks. So they were facing down, instead of having to pay down, at the time the housing market was something like a total of $12 trillion, right? But with all the insurance that these banks bought out on these mortgages, they were facing down having to pay back $60 trillion or something like that. So an absolutely ridiculous amount of money, and that's why they needed to be bailed out. So, again, and this goes back to okay, yeah, Clinton signed the law into effect, but there was also substantial deregulation under Reagan and under presidents, not even before him, but really Reagan, Clinton, the two Bushes, and now Obama gets stuck with this, right? So that's just like a very superficial overview. I can go more in depth on it, but I don't want to bore the fuck out of you guys. That's essentially what caused the housing crisis in 2007, 2008. So how do you get out of it? Well, you do away with certain policies that allowed people to buy a house without having any income. Before the mortgage crisis, if you wanted to buy a house, you had to show a mortgage lender or a lending institution that you had money in the bank and that you had a monthly income so that they could be assured, okay, he's going to be able to pay his mortgage, right? But under the housing crisis, and really what started the housing crisis, was investors wanted more and more people buying mortgages. So mortgage brokers are like, oh shit, well, everybody who qualifies for a mortgage already has one. So I'm going to start, extending mortgages to people who would not be my first choice. And this fueled this whole binge of investing on Wall Street, and then everybody got fucked in the end. So that's pretty much like a very superficial overview, but hopefully that allows you guys to, talk a little bit more about the housing crisis and about economics in general. So if you're interested in looking up some of this stuff, there's a fantastic video up here. Just check it out on YouTube. I remember I watched it back in like 2012, 2013, and it was something I had to watch for one of my finance classes here at USC, and it's just the credit crisis explained. So it's got a bunch of great graphics, a really good explanation of why we are where we are today. So that's that. Let's see. Lastly, the skills that I would like to think, have really helped me, set myself on a good path, set myself up for success in the modern workforce. A lot of people, they graduate from school and then they go and they start working, like me, and they realize, oh shit, I could have been learning a lot of this stuff while I was at school, but I was too busy, fucking around and bonging beers or, listening to podcasts and, just in general being a total dickhead. So here are just some very basic things, things that you guys can look into if you're looking for a job, or if you're a college kid or something like that. You want to make yourself more marketable to future employers. The first thing I would say is persuasive writing and speaking. Being able to speak and write persuasively. On a day-to-day basis, really what I do is I write something for our client, and then that has to hold up in a federal investigation of some sort if the Fed chooses to investigate later on. So part of that is that I have to write really concisely and really eloquently, because I could just dance around the point and not fucking use a bunch of big words, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to understand it. So being able to write and speak persuasively will take you very far. And I can speak from experience on that. It's just a matter of being able to say something in a way that literally everybody can understand it. That will make you really, really marketable. So, a few resources that you guys can check out. Eliminating passive voice. There's a bunch of web resources on that, like writing eloquently, expanding your vocabulary. How do you expand your vocabulary? Well, you read a shit ton. That's just a fact. If you read more, you'll be exposed to more words, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, well, that's how you use that word. Words like, fucking incipient and capricious and, things like that. So learn how to write and do it fucking well. Don't be like those grizzly wintergreen dippers who are like, I'm fucking dead. No, I'm fucking with you guys. The second thing, and one that I wish I really would have looked into a hell of a lot earlier, Microsoft Office Suite. So yeah, okay, pretty much everybody knows what to do in Microsoft Word. If you put proficient in Microsoft Word at the bottom of your resume, don't do that, because any astute hiring manager is going to look at that and be like, yeah, well, no shit, you're proficient in Microsoft Word. How else would you be writing this fucking resume? So Microsoft Office, Word if Word just boils down to, are you able to write persuasively, which you could do that in something besides Word, like text edit or something like that. Really the main one is Microsoft Excel. And I know, like, if you were like me, up until really my senior year at USC, I had maybe done like a few VLOOKUPs. I had done some case studies in some of my classes and done like t-tests and linear regression and, you know, certain pieces like that with data that I was given. So I didn't have to come up with anything. I just ran the test and fucking turned it in, right? On a day-to-day basis, I spend probably like 90% of my time in Excel. And so here's like really what it boils down to. I could still be at the office like right now. It's like almost 8 o'clock right now. I could still be at the office right now just plugging away and, you know, doing addition, subtraction, like all that stuff on Excel. Or I could have done what I actually did and learned VBA, which is basically automating certain functions within Excel. It's its own programming language, right? If you get really, really good at VBA and just Excel formulas in general, and you're able to build certain tools or templates or environments where you can automate spreadsheet functions, you will be a savior to virtually any organization. Because let's be honest, like, as much as every organization is going to be like, yeah, we're on the cutting edge of this shit, in all truthfulness, there's very few organizations out there who are truly digital. If there were truly that many digital organizations, they wouldn't need employees because they would just run shit through a computer program and have that do it for them, which is what we're starting to see. So get really, really good, whether it's on certain web resources like Stack Overflow, Chandu, really any Khan Academy. Khan Academy is great for just everything, really, but especially like computer programming, that stuff. If you can get really, really good at that, I don't care if you're about to graduate from school or if you're a 40-year-old job seeker and you got laid off and you're looking for a job and for whatever reason you're fucking watching my videos. If you can get really good at that stuff, then you will, honest to God, you will climb the ladder so fucking quickly. I know people at my work who, you know, they could be spending, you know, 3.5, 4 hours doing some shit in Excel, but thanks to some shit that other people come up with and that I have thankfully like learned, what used to take them 3.5 hours now takes them 10 seconds. So it just goes on to create efficiencies across organizations, and people will thank you for it because all of a sudden they're not wasting time doing some shit that they don't want to do. And when you're wasting people's time, you're wasting people's passion. Let's see. The third one, and this kind of goes along with like Excel, like being technically skilled in something, right? Which it doesn't necessarily have to be computer programming, right? Everybody thinks that you have to be some sort of super genius to know computer programming or to learn it. Not true. I can tell you that I'm a dumb fuck and I managed to figure out Excel VBA in all of about a month and a half, 2 months or something like that. It really doesn't take much. If you have a basic understanding of maybe up to algebra, you're fucking good to go. So don't let that deter you. Don't think of computer programming as like, oh, like I'm never going to be able to fucking learn it. Because you will. It just takes effort. And really what starts out uncomfortable becomes comfortable the more you do it. So going along with that, certain task-based programming languages like Python, like I started with Python because it's what this dude at my work, one of my coworkers, who's big into JavaScript and all that stuff, he was like, yeah, definitely learn Python. So I was like, all right, I got this book. I'll fucking grab it. Well, really, I got 2 books. So let's see. This book right here, Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. This thing is fucking awesome. Mainly because Python is an easy language to learn. The syntax is pretty understandable. And if you have a basic understanding of Excel VBA, you'll be like, oh, okay, Python's not that bad. So Python is definitely really fucking useful. It's really robust. I would definitely recommend you look into it because it has a variety of applications that are not just within Excel's spreadsheet functions or financial analysis or something like that. You can really use it for anything. So that really goes back to learning a computer language and knowing it well enough to see how it might be applied to other scenarios or other industries or things like that. And I swear to God, if you were to come into an interview and be like, yeah, I know Python, you would get hired immediately. I mean, granted, provided you're not a total shithead or something. And then this one, a smarter way to learn JavaScript. I actually have to look into this shit a little bit more. But JavaScript does go well with Excel. I don't really have that good of it. I have a better understanding of Python than I do of JavaScript. But you get my drift. It's all about like computer languages, and you know that might seem difficult in general, and it is. It's going to be hard starting out, right? But the point is, when you start learning a computer language, you start to learn to think a different way, and all of a sudden this whole fucking universe of potential opens up for you. Like, to be honest, I wish that I would have gotten into computer science, computer programming a hell of a lot earlier than 7 months ago, because I really have found out I fucking love it. It's really therapeutic. Like, I love just flying around Excel. I just feel like a fucking hacker. So yeah, like, look into that stuff. Basically everything that I have learned about HTML and CSS and Python, even JavaScript, like, go to Khan Academy. It's literally 100% free resource on the web where you sign up. You can sign up with Facebook and have access to a bunch of these courses that are like university level, and they'll just teach it to you for free. It's fucking awesome. Like, that's probably how I'm going to end up studying for the GMAT too. So definitely look into that stuff. Yeah, that about wraps it up. I don't really know what else to fucking talk about. So I'm probably going to go watch some Always Sunny. And then play some guitar, maybe upload another cover, which I do feel bad about. Somebody was like, yeah, you should start a separate channel for your guitar covers. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I could. Or I could just like consolidate my guitar covers and my dip reviews into like, you know, easy to access little buckets on my channel. So it's like, you get the best of all worlds. Like, if you feel like watching a dip review, you can go watch a fucking dip review. And if you feel like watching me hammer away on fucking guitar, then you can go watch that too, instead of having to jump across to another channel. But yeah, I was talking to one of my friends about that, and he was just like, so let me get this straight. Like, you make a ton of dip reviews and like you get some subscribers, like whatever, and then you just sucker them into watching your guitar covers. And I'm just like, yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much how it works. So, yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'll come back.